What's going on, guys? Another off-day Twins Periscope chat. Brandon Warren coming at you. This is also the Midwest Swing podcast, daily podcast, simulcast. So we'll talk a little bit about the Minnesota Twins. We'll talk about whatever else you want to talk about. Twins off today, Monday, on a cold and drizzly and nasty day in Minneapolis. So a good day to be off. Obviously, the weather very cooperative with the Twins being on the road here in the last week or so. So should be pretty good. Looks like it's going to be in the 60s here for the next few days moving forward here, as the Twins have a 6-game homestand. First 3 games against Oakland, next 3 games against Boston. So should be a lot of fun. Twins coming in 12-11, so obviously off to, I think, a better start than everyone expected so far in April. Miguel Sano getting the Player of the Week honors for the American League through April 24 and 30, batting something like .550 with 4 extra base hits. I believe it was 3 home runs and a double. So obviously a very good week for Miggy. The one that I'm trying to create a hashtag for, hashtag Miggy Smalls, hasn't really caught on yet, but we'll see what happens. So here's a reminder: if you want to ask me questions, you can ask in the Periscope chat here. If you're listening to this as the audio podcast, you can send them to me on Twitter at Brandon_Warren. I can save them for the podcast. Or you can just send them to me DM, but at Brandon_Warren is the best way to go. Make sure you follow me there. Make sure you follow me at Midwest Swing Pod for Twitter. Tomorrow's show is going to be a lot of fun, as Mike Berardino is going to be on from the Pioneer Press, calling in from the phone, I think. So it'll be a lot of fun to have him on. I'm hoping to get him and my brother Cody on here sometime in the near future, because Cody is one of his biggest fans. So a lot of fun stuff coming up here for the Twins. The Oakland series, probable pitchers, hopefully I can remember them in the right order, are Sonny Gray, Kendall Graveman, and Jarrell Cotton. Gray coming off the disabled list. I believe he's making his first start of the season. So it's going to be a lot of fun to see what he has and how good he is. He obviously was battling some health issues last year as well as other things. He also has some durability concerns based on his size, based on his height. So the hope is that the Twins can get to him quickly and all that. Kendall Graveman is a ground ball guy. Not a ton of strikeouts, but fairly good stuff. Pretty good pitcher. And then Jarrell Cotton is kind of a young flamethrower, really good changeup. So on Thursday afternoon, I don't know if it'll be on TV. It seems like those Thursday afternoon games are never on TV. But check that one out, because Cotton is a very exciting young pitcher. Kind of the consensus pick for the Rookie of the Year for a lot of people if they're looking at pitchers before this season. I think Andrew Benintendi has a better chance, but Jarrell Cotton was obviously right in the thick of things. So not much else going on. I think A-Ray Adrianza is going to join the Twins at some point on this homestand, if not tomorrow. So keep an eye for some kind of roster move tomorrow if that's the case. Rochester was off today, so it's hard to gauge exactly what's happening, because if he'd have been out of the lineup today in Rochester, that'd be a pretty good indication. But I have spoken to some people who might know, and it sounds like he might be on his way before too long. So keep an eye out for our A-Ray Adrianza. Another fun thing tomorrow is going to be Trevor Plouffe's first game back at Target Field as a visiting player. Plouffe is not the only Oakland A that is a former Twin. Obviously Liam Hendriks as well. Hendriks having a rough season, but Plouffe is off to a pretty slow start as well. So we'll talk to Plouffe tomorrow around 4:45 or 5 o'clock in the A's dugout. That should be fun. Obviously a very well-liked guy in the clubhouse, not only from the players, but also from the media, because obviously he was a very good guy. It started a little rocky with him here in Minnesota. I think it was just he was a young player trying to find his way, and so once he was a little more settled, once he was a little more comfortable in his skin, he became a really good player to go to and talk to in the clubhouse, and became really fun to joke around with and that kind of thing. So really excited to get to talk to him about a number of different things. See how Oakland is treating him. Obviously, that's a team in transition, so we'll see what they're looking to do with him. I know they have Matt Chapman in the minors that they really like that plays third base. So we'll see if he's in Oakland for the long haul, relative long haul. I guess nobody's in Oakland for the long haul really, but yeah. So if people got questions, they can feel free to fire them in here on Twitter or on Facebook, or not Facebook, rather here or on Twitter, and let's just roll with it. So Matt Gamby wants to know what I think about Green versus McKay. Well, I don't know. I mean, I like both. I think, there's obviously some intriguing things about both guys. With McKay, he'd be a little closer to the big leagues. Lefty, polished, good fastball command. Go back and listen to the Midwest Swing podcast with Chris Blessing from last week, and you'll hear some really good stuff about McKay. Also, he had a lot of good stuff about the Chattanooga Lookouts. Excuse me. Really good stuff about not only current lookouts, but also guys like Nico Goodrum, Zach Granite, and a few other guys who have moved up to AAA, and what he thinks about their futures in the big leagues. Really good opinions, really interesting stuff from a guy who watches a lot of Chattanooga. So stuff on Nick Birdie, Mason Malatakis. I should have asked him about Mitch Garver, but we ran out of time and his Skype was kind of acting up. But a really, really good program. So, yeah, I think that it was really good, and I think people would enjoy it. So please feel free to check it out. I did see someone ask if Barrios is on his way up soon. I think that's your number 5 starter. I believe that it's Saturday that pitcher is slated to pitch against Boston, and if I remember correctly, and I'm going to pull it up here because it's I believe it's a really difficult pitching matchup. Okay, no, so it's Rick Porcello. So it will be probably Barrios versus Porcello on Saturday the 6th. Eduardo Rodriguez against Phil Hughes on the 5th. And it looks like... Okay, for some reason I thought Chris Sale was starting on Saturday, so they must have moved some things around. Yeah, it looks like the Twins are going to miss Chris Sale, which... Can't really complain about that. My dates are getting all screwed up here. Anyway, yeah, so I think that it's going to be Barrios starting on the 6th, on Saturday. The only other really thing they could do is go with Nick Tepesch, who has not pitched yet, out of the bullpen. I think that'd be a really, really unpopular move. But, again, this front office isn't in the business of making popular moves. They're in the business of making the right move. I don't know how you could justify not bringing out Barrios at this point, based on how well he's pitched down there, how he's stretched out, and how the plan was for him to have a much better chance to make the team, if not for the World Baseball Classic. I just don't see any way you can go with Tepesch over Barrios. I think you keep Tepesch up as the long guy, as long as Justin Haley is on the shelf, and then make your move then. Or keep Tepesch up if someone were to get hurt or not pitch well. As of right now, though, I think you got to go with Barrios as your 5th guy. There's other ways to look at it, and I have, I'll never say a move is going to happen until it's official, but I think you have to go with Barrios. I really do. I'm just, at this point, doesn't appear like there's anything else that he has left to show down at Rochester. He's dominating International League hitters. He's doing good things with sequencing. He looks great. So... somebody asked about Miguel Sano signing long-term and if it's too early. It's absolutely not too early, if you ask me. But the question is how willing he's going to be. We've seen guys like Chris Bryant now and Bryce Harper. I mean, he's not quite that caliber of player, but those guys are saying, yeah, I just want to play it out. Francisco Lindor, another type of guy who has been saying, look, just want to let it play out, and we'll see what happens. Which is fine. It doesn't hurt the Twins at all to wait if we were to get hurt in the future. But if they can make a compelling enough offer, whether it's 7 years, $100 million, like I opined on Twins Daily, 8 years and 120, I'd be all over both those deals, because then you still have him locked up into his early 30s. He can still cash in one more time in a huge way. Who knows where baseball's finances will be at that point? But one can only assume they'd be better than they are now. And it just seems to work for both sides, especially if you can line his pockets more early in the deal. as far as pre-arb and arbitration years, give him a compelling reason to sign the contract. But that's got to be a pretty hefty deal to the point where I'm just not sure the Twins or Sano really are going to go down that path. So I don't think it's likely, but I definitely don't think that it's too soon. So we'll see what happens. We don't really know procedure-wise what Falvey and Levine believe as far as negotiating in season. I believe it was a Twins policy under Terry Ryan, under Bill Smith. Interesting thing about Bill Smith in a second here. They didn't really negotiate in season, as far as I know. So I don't know. It'll be interesting because if you go to the end of this off season, you also have one less year of team control that you get to negotiate around. But yeah, I still think that they should be thinking about Miguel Sano long term in a Twins uniform, and the best way to do that. Bill Smith was named the assistant to the assistant to the president of minor league baseball. Going to do some things with facilities, with international leagues and scheduling and all that. That's a good job for him. He was obviously very key in getting Target Field put together. In addition to renovation projects in Fort Myers, I believe he also was instrumental in Rochester. I may be wrong with that, but I think they did do some things at that stadium as well. So obviously there's things that he's good at, that he probably doesn't get enough credit for because of how he performed as a GM here. And you can't sleep on the fact that he signed Jorge Polanco and Miguel Sano and Max Kepler all in the same international signing period. So there should be some credit there as well, because that's three key cogs in the current lineup. 33% of the lineup right now was signed in one international period back in, I think, 2009. So obviously did some good things, even if the overwhelming grading of that period is negative. So hopefully he does well, but it does sound like then that would close the book on his time in the Twin Cities, or at least as a member of the Twins organization, which, I think there's good things and bad things, but it's nice to see that it's been a fairly harmonious, peaceful change of power between Terry Ryan and Falvey and Levine. And I've seen Terry Ryan at the park a couple times this year. Really great to catch up with him. It's really weird to see him wearing a Phillies pullover, but I'm happy to see him doing something in the game. The game is better for having Terry Ryan working in it, and so it's a good deal. Anyway, what else do you guys have? I'd like to go about 20 minutes, which gives us about 5 or 6 more minutes. Ryan Sawyer wants to know, is Terry Ryan here scouting? Yes. So he's in the press box before games, putting together his papers, and then, he heads down. He basically sits behind the Champions Club with the other scouts. And there's a few scouts we see all the time. Tim McIntosh is one who I met on the last homestand, but Terry Ryan, Mark Marilla, there's some guys that are in the press box pretty regularly that I get to chat with, which is nice. At this point, just getting to know people as part of the business rather than, exchanging vital information or anything like that. Ryan says his dad played high school ball with Mark, so that must have been, I think it was at Armstrong. I think Mark was actually a phenomenal, not only baseball player, but hockey player at Armstrong, because I know he's from Plymouth. And, he's confirming there. Mark is a great guy, and if you haven't read about him, look up Mark, Merila. Pat Borsey, who's been on the podcast before, had a really great story about him. I think it was Sports on Earth maybe 2 years ago. There's some great stuff out there. He's one of Trevor Hoffman's best friends. Had it's like a seizure when he was at the U. So he'd been drafted, I think, by the Twins, ended up going back into the drafts, had the seizure, ended up getting drafted much later by the Padres. The Padres let him play for a while, realized the physical limitations he had were going to limit him as far as getting to the pros. He was an incredible baseball player. So they made him the bullpen catcher. He and Trevor Hoffman clicked. He ended up getting sicker, nearly died. His wife left him, all kinds of stuff. Now he's a Padre scout and just a really great guy, and one of my favorite guys to see at the ballpark. Yeah, brain tumor. That sounds right. Ryan Sawyer saying brain tumor. Lots of horrible luck in his life, but a really great guy. And so you think you should read about him. Like I said, Pat Borsey did a really great profile on him for Sports on Earth, and I think it was 2015 he did that. So definitely worth your time, and only 5-10 minutes of a read. which is really good. So yeah, he and Terry I see semi-frequently. So yeah, Terry will come down and watch reports or watch and file reports on starting pitchers or whatever the Phillies want him to do, which is cool. So good to see him still at the park. A little bizarre that it's not working for the Twins, and I'm sure for him it's even more bizarre than that. So all the best for him, and hope that things go well for him, and that things go well for the Twins as well, and hopefully that it's a good move for both sides. I am seeing that Chris Sale is due to pitch tomorrow for Boston, so that to me would indicate with a series beginning, let's see, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I should line him up to pitch Sunday against the Twins, but the Sunday starter. Okay, so Sunday, Irvin Santana and Chris Sale. So that's a game to get really excited about next Sunday. I don't think I'm going to be there. I think my baby will be here by then, hopefully, knock on wood. But we'll see what happens. The cat's gotten into the shot now, too. He wants some of the stardom, which is kind of funny. So let's run a few more minutes. If you guys got any more questions, I'd be happy to take them. Obviously, going to be at the park here tomorrow. Then I'm off Wednesday, back again Thursday afternoon. Should be a fun week, and if the Twins can take some of this, I don't want to call it momentum because I don't really believe in momentum, but if they can continue to play well like they have on the road, bring it home, maybe win 4 out of 6, it would be a really good, deal. B Perm says Barrios a lock to take the 5th spot here in a couple weeks. Are they waiting for the Super 2 deadline? They are not waiting for any kind of financial deadline. At this point, it's just effectiveness. And it's not a couple weeks. It's actually this Saturday they need a pitcher. So whether it's Barrios, who 100% deserves that spot, or Tepish, who obviously has familiarity with Thad Levine going back to the Texas days, ground ball guy, not the greatest stuff. I think you should go with Barrios, but I don't know if that's going to be the case. It's definitely not about money though. It's not about service time whatsoever at this point. So it'll be interesting to see if there's really nothing to prevent him from being the call. But again, I won't count my eggs until they're hatched. Got a question here. All-star predictions. Sano and Santana. I mean, that's obviously the early favorites. It'll be interesting to see how deep third base is this year. With I don't think Moustakas is playing all that well, and you got Manny Machado, who's obviously the dude. He's obviously off to a tough start. Good point there. Ryan Sawyer says Beltre out. Beltre's obviously been shelved for the Rangers this year. We can pull up Fangraphs quick and see third baseman in the American League, because Kyle Seager is another guy you got to keep in mind. Right now, though, by wins above replacement on Fangraphs, Miguel Sano and Justin Turner are the top 2. Joey Gallo has to be in the mix. That's a good pick by Zane. You also have Chase Headley, who I don't think will keep up what he's doing. Jose Ramirez played second base while Jason Kipnis was out. He's got to be a consideration. Moustakas actually has been decent. I take that back. Not a lot of on-base percentage, but he's got good power. So I think Sano's got a good chance. You never really know. Dozier could jump back into the mix if he starts playing better. Other than that, maybe Kepler could sneak in there as well. I really like Max Kepler a lot, so we'll see what he's capable of. All right, so the last question we have comes from Nick Moen. He says, how many home runs for Miguel Sano this year? Well, we all know he's on pace for, I think, 40-some. So whoever's in the chat, feel free to throw out your answers. I'll say them on the air, and then we'll wrap this up. Ryan Sawyer says 39 home runs for Miguel Sano. I think that's a pretty good guess. Nick says 42. B. Perm says 34. Zane says 35. So it seems like we're in the mid-30s, upper 30s, maybe low 40s. Ben Antel says 40. So, 35-40 seems to be a pretty popular range. I think 40 is possible. You really have to do a lot of things right for the entire season to hit 40 home runs. So So I think I'll say 38. Ryan Sawyer, we'll wrap up this one. How many home runs for Dozier? He says about 30. Yeah, I think Dozier settles in between 28 and 32. There's nothing wrong with that. That's a perfectly good second baseman. That's a very good player. Nick Mullen says 26 for Dozier. I think that's fine as well. The nice thing is when your second baseman hits like a first baseman, you can get by more with your first baseman hitting like a second baseman. Now, that's not to start the age-old debate about whether or not Joe Mauer is good. I've already lost that battle. I understand he's no longer a good player. But it does allow you for different types of roster construction that can make a team good. So it helps that Dozier hits the way he does. All right, thanks for listening. If you use Amazon, go to zonecoverage.com/Amazon. Nothing changes about your Amazon experience, but we do get a little kickback. You can help support the stuff at Cold Omaha and Zone Coverage. Check us out tomorrow, Mike Berardino on Midwest Swing. We should have a staff podcast coming at you with whoever shows up to our meeting tomorrow. Should be a fun day. You've been listening to Midwest Swing Simulcast, part of the Zone Coverage and Cold Omaha Podcast Network. Peace.